Show. Here we go. Well, we haven't been on in a while, and now we're back, and we're having fucking technical difficulties once again. But
There
we
he
are
is.
back. Welcome back, guys, to season. What is this?
Season 3, I think, of
I think
Talking
it's
Tech.
4 because 2020 we started. I
Yeah,
think we're on season 4,
yeah.
Talking Tech. So looks like we already got one person viewing us. Jesus Christ, that was quick.
Yeah.
We have Brett. Brett, how do I pronounce your last name?
Hemp Hill.
Hemphill.
Hemp Hill.
We have Brett Hemphill on. He's going to talk cave diving with us. But before we get started, I think we need to. We got to read our disclaimer.
Of course. Legal department's all on us. A lot of the delays getting the new show up and our new season going was just verifying that all the lawyers were going to be happy with this one. So, anyways, folks, you know the drill. The opinions expressed in this program are not necessarily those of. Oh God, I got to fix this because Bob doesn't work for that guy anymore. B. Larson Metalworks, Fully Tech Marine, Fully Tech Charters, Fully Tech Mechanical, Karst Underwater Research, or anyone who may employ or terminate the employment thereof of Bob or myself. All names, places, and situations are purely fictitious. If anything sounds familiar, it is purely coincidental. There may be some colorful language tonight, so it's time to send the kids off to bed, unless, of course, you're in the state of California, in which case you're a shitty parent and your kids aren't going to turn out anyways. Viewer discretion is advised. Bob, what are you drinking tonight?
Well, guys, it's dry January, right? So I have decided to partake in that. So I'm not on the beer tonight. I'm going to open this bottle of rum. I haven't tried this one yet. It's a Santa Teresa from Venezuela. So, trying to be a little healthier, participate in the dry January. So here we go. How about you, Bender?
I am drinking a Sweet Spot Marshmallow Stout from Left Field Brewing. And
All right.
it gets you drunk. Brett, what are you having tonight?
I'm having a spring release by Marker 48 in Spring Hill, Florida. It's a double IPA.
Can you tell us a little bit about that? That looks like it's almost like a cave diving beer, isn't it?
It is. They helped us do a sponsorship. There's our logo right there, and they love Weeki Wachee. It's right down the road. They actually put out a lager called a Middle Earth, which is named after one of the rooms at Weeki, and we went up and did a talk to about, I don't know, almost 80 people who ate and drank beer, and so they're really great supporters at Marker 48 in Spring Hill, and they make great beer. But the spring release and the other cave diving beers only come out once a year, so you need to give them a call and find out when that is.
Well, hopefully they got some when we get down there here in a couple of weeks.
Well, if not, I have some extra ones in the fridge, so I could maybe meet you guys.
We clean those out.
We'll have to make that happen. So I got a question just real quick before we touch on all the cool shit you're doing. You said you've been diving down in Weeki Wachee. Do you get to dive with the mermaids?
Yes. In 2007 through 2012, we were actually in the head spring, and I got to know a lot of the mermaids and the historical mermaids, and they made me by proxy a merman. I had to take the breathing tube and go down to 80 feet. That was my test. They never gave me a tail, but I tell you, it's such an honor to be a part of the history of the longest roadside attraction in the United States. They've been doing shows at Weeki Wachee there since the early 40s, 1940 and stuff. So just to be, in any capacity to be a part of that history is really an honor.
Yeah, that's very cool.
But we're no longer at the head spring. We haven't been for quite some time because Florida was in a horrible drought, which was the only reason we were able to actually, find and explore that side of the cave. And as soon as semi-normal rainfall came back, the opening we had been clawing our way into with almost, 100 cubic feet a second, about the size of a breakfast nook, it went back up to 200 cubic feet per second. And so we turned our efforts back to a smaller spring about about an eighth of a mile away, and that was Twin Dees. And of course, the two systems now are connected. And so most of our work, all of our work now takes place out of Twin Dees. It's on the same property, but so no, we don't dive with the mermaids now.
Okay, well, at least you got to, though.
We did, yes.
I mean, that's really the reason you started diving there.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. So what else has been going on down there? You guys are exploring the cave.
Well, Karst Underwater Research, basically our goal is through documentation, we protect the resource. You know, years of growing up and watching Nat Geo and Mutual of Omaha, you know, unless a person can truly understand, you know, when you see a video of a polar bear, you understand the polar bear or wildlife. But the problem is people talk about, you know, wrecks or the aquifer or caves, and they're like, yeah, not interested. You know, the best way to protect any resource these days is to document it so that people who may never go there can, you know, understand it. And so through mapping, in, you know, research and exploration, and also assisting other scientists with their research, we protect all, you know, that huge resource. Besides Weeki Wachee, all up and down the Suwannee and the Withlacoochee and several other places in Florida, we hold permits with the Department of Environmental Protection, Suwannee River Water Management District, and also state forestry and federal forestry. And so it's taken us many years to kind of build that trust, you know, that progressive trust, you know, because so many of these places have seen fatalities and things like that. So once again, that's a true, you know, that's a real honor. And our team constantly is, you know, aware that, you know, they have to be careful, but we document everything.
That's wonderful.
So
Wonderful.
Brett, what does a dive at Weeki Wachee look like for you know, I'm a tourist cave diver. A lot of the people
Sure.
watching are wreck divers or people from all over the world diving different styles, different caves they're diving in. What is, you know, Saturday morning, you guys are going to go dive Weeki. What does your day look like?
Well, it takes the primary divers literally a week to get ready for that dive. And, you know, you have to break it down. I'm going to try to answer this so it's interesting to your audience, but the entrance at Twin Dees is literally a chimney that starts like a chimney. You've got to literally get everything off, shove it down this chimney, and then it opens into a room at 40 feet where we have basically an aircraft retrieval bag inflated on the ceiling, which is our habitat. And then you've got to take all that equipment that you literally shuffle down this limestone coffin-sized chimney. You've got to configure it all back together. Then you have to scooter through a single file tunnel for 1,300 feet. And then all of a sudden it just, and it opens up into stuff the size of an airport runway, you know, and it's just massive. And so obviously in reverse, you know, you're exceeding depths of 400 feet, 300 feet, and you got to come back and you have to face that exact same process in reverse where all this equipment that you have to survive for sometimes 16, 18 hours underwater, you've got to break it back down. But fortunately with the habitat and a lot of not progressive, but we've taken our decompression schedules and based them predominantly around staying in that bag at 40 feet through the duration of 40, 30, 20, and then we get to 10. By the time we reach 10, we're at, we call cut time or double time. For every minute we're in the bag, you know, for every 2 minutes we're in the bag, it's only giving us 1 minute of decompression credit. So we got to get out. And so generally we slow stop up to 10. We wait an hour at 10 feet and then we get out of the water. And most of the time it's 3 a.m., you know, or the sun's just coming up and stuff. So
Jesus.
That's
some real diving there.
It's taken years. And I tell you, I think the one thing, and you guys can understand this too, if you can't remain comfortable during these dives, you know, a lot of wreck divers and cave divers, you know, you go and do these deep, cold wrecks and you're in deco and you're like, God, I couldn't do that any longer. I'm freezing. I'm not comfortable, you know. And the thing about this type of cave diving is, you know, it's about how you put your catheter on, how dry your dry suit stays, and how comfortable you can remain during the entirety of the dive, because currently we're at about 10,000 feet out, 365 feet deep. And if you get out there and you have a leak or something doesn't feel right, you've got a long way to get to the door. So our real goal over these last 10 years has just been creating systems to stay comfortable for long periods of time.
I get that. And I think the technology's come along to help that with the heated vests, especially for like us up here in the lakes.
Right.
You know, I mean, 10, 12 years ago, that wasn't really a thing. There was a couple of them out that one or two guys had that sometimes worked. And now, you know, we're diving in Superior and it's, 38 degrees and we're fine for a couple hours,
Yeah.
But we got a question here. JD's asking you a question. He wants to get serious here with you, Brett. He says, how do you ensure the catheter stays on for that long? I mean, that's a serious question.
I always joke around about that. I use a good Rochester #1, and I use glue on top of it. And, you got to make sure the plumbing, I use the check valve that turns. So the very last thing I do is I make sure nothing's twisted or bunched up, because I tell you, we've had so many dives where guys are like, and then they spend the last 6 hours in a suit filled with piss.
Yeah.
The guys in Europe always tell me, they go, what you guys are doing is really impressive, but it's bath water, but I'll tell you, in 72-degree water, after about 12 or 13 hours, it doesn't really matter. You're still,
I've never done anything like that, but I've done the 72-degree water at like the Nest, and you're in there for 3-4 hours.
Yeah.
You start to get a little
chilly.
chilly.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not warm.
Yeah.
You
you reach that point where even though it's not cold, you're still shaking, and decompression becomes really inefficient when your body's struggling with hypothermia.
Absolutely.
And stuff. Gorilla Glue. Yeah, I really do need to use Gorilla Glue. I tell you.
Yeah, but the problem that scares me with that is removing it. Oh, geez, rip that thing right off.
No, but we've made modifications to everything. I mean, like Dr. Pitkin, Andrew Pitkin's a good friend of mine, and a lot of people use his heater. We were literally doing these types of long dives, and somebody was like, wouldn't it be great if we just didn't have to turn our heat on and off and we could regulate just about how much heat? And, Andy took it upon himself to go and learn electronics and design the Pitkin controller. I'm not sure if you guys use those or not, but
yeah, I've started
really cool.
experimenting. A few of us are using the Pitkin controllers up in the lakes now. Finally,
yeah.
Typically, the lakes are so bloody cold that it's just we got it on the boat before the dive even starts.
Just turn it on high, and it stays on high until your batteries die.
But it has become a tool as we've started pushing our limits in the cold water too. There's only so much capacity in that battery, so if we can extend that range by tolerating a little bit less heat, it's a tool that I think over the next couple of years is going to become sort of essential up here even. So
well, Andy and I were diving in a place called Mill Creek, and we have our scrubbers. They're basically electric scrubbers that hang in our habitats, and he was using his Pitkin controller, and I said, man, you just need to make one of those that'll work on the scrubber and this and that. And he was like, so a lot of people don't know this, but on the new Pitkin controllers, they use an accelerometer. But if you go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, it actually switches into a scrubber mode. So everybody that has one now, Andy's going to say, you shouldn't have told people that. But it actually started with flashing green. That means you're in scrubber mode. But, just out of necessity, Matt, we were struggling so much down here. I mean, we get into the bag and go to pendulum rebreathers, and Matt Van Zant and I are sitting there, and he's like, man, what are we going to do? I said, well, why don't we just have a scrubber that hangs here? And everyone's like, oh, oxygen fires. And I'm like, I don't think so. So Matt and I designed an in-habitat scrubber where we used a sealed motorcycle induction fan put here. And of course, about the same time, the guys are in the Pyrrhus Resurgence, and we're friends with Richard and a few of the other guys. And so we start doing habitats and talking about habitat scrubbers. That was a game changer too, because the habitat scrubbers, they're heaters. You turn that thing on in a habitat and it just brings it, boom, right up to 80 something degrees. You can unzip your suit and order
nice.
food. And our decompressions are so much more, beneficial. You don't have any of the tension or the hydrostatic pressure of even a mouthpiece or a DSV, and you're just sitting there. And, we can't even explain how beneficial these things are. I mean, I come out of the water after a 16-hour dive and feel better than I do on dives at shallower caves, Little River or Jenny or stuff like that. So it's amazing.
So a 16-hour dive, what's your dive time compared to your decompression time? It's at Weeki Wachee.
Most of that time we spend in the bag. We're underwater, but we're in the bag. And our decompression stops usually they start at 260 feet. In fact, in the back of the cave, if we spend a long time, our first decompression stop is about 7,000 feet back. At about 280, we'll usually have a quick stop, coming up. But I think the majority of our decompression is spent in the bag, anywhere from 5 to 7 hours in the bag.
So how much time are you actually getting on exploration?
Exploration time is usually restricted to about an hour, and it takes us about just over an hour now to get to the end, and an hour out, an hour back. So 3 hours at depth, and then the rest of it would be on a 13-hour dive, 10 hours of that is decompression. And most of it still is in the water. We spend a lot of time back there.
So by the time you get to the bag, what's your run time looking like? Because your habitat's in 40 feet, give or take.
Yeah. By the time we get to the bag, our run time is equal to our bottom time. So you're looking at about anywhere from 500 minutes or more.
Okay.
And it's really scary in back because the shearwaters, they just tack out. Generally, we'll be diving them and they'll just go 9,999, and you're like, okay, we need to get the hell out of here. That's
the first I've heard shearwaters do that.
Yeah.
No,
yeah.
That was my next question is how are you managing decompression? Like, we all have a shearwater. That thing will, like, I can go to the bar tomorrow night and that thing will still figure out a way to decompress me.
Yeah.
But, so is this all longhand cut tables, V?
No, the shearwaters have been really adapted. So the cool thing is pretty much tells you, you look at it, you're way back there and it goes, you're fucked, but then the moment you start increasing your PPO2s and coming up, it starts chopping huge components down,
so it's still calculating everything. It's
absolutely.
It can't display all the information you want, but it'll calculate it.
Which is really the innovation of shearwater, is it's not this acute kind of thing where you're always penalized. The moment you start increasing your shallow and you're increasing the oxygen, decreasing the helium, it starts chopping huge blocks off. Like, I made a mistake the last dive. We have these transitional deco gases, and even though I never use them, I still need to put them in my computer because I get credit for it. And so my buddy's like pulling like 2 hours ahead of me, and I'm like, oh shit, I forgot to put it, because I usually just stay. I'm diving like a 797, so we're really close to heliox right now. We have just a fraction of nitrogen, but still, you got to put those transitional decompression gases in to really get that credit and stuff. And I really can't share just how we're doing it, because the thing is I would not run the tables we run at Weeki Wachee anywhere else, but because of the habitat and and all that other stuff. But it's really cool.
That's awesome.
You guys said I could drink.
Oh, I'm almost out of rum. I'll have to pour some more here in a moment.
But we could talk about Weeki Wachee forever. But like I said, the cool thing about Weeki is everything from modifying video lights and scooters and dry suits, and it's just been so much adaptation to how we use our gear and creating things. Like I said, just to stay comfortable, over the years. I mean, if you would have told our team even 8 years ago that we'd be doing what we're doing now, we would laugh. Dr. Pitkins, hyperbaric specialist. And when we were first doing dives there, he was like, no, we're going to do it this way. And, but over time, even Dr. Pitkin's like, wow, it's amazing just how much of a benefit we get from having this, this submerged habitat.
David here is asking us what rebreathers are we using? So what are you guys using primarily on your team?
We have basically our heavy rigs are the ones we wear on our back. Mine is a Fathom. I've used a modified KISS Classic, a Hammerhead, and now I'm using the Fathom. I really like it. It's really good. It's got a big full 8-pound radial, and it's with the HUD and everything. So I really like it. It's a good unit. It's got back mounted lungs, but they come real high up on my shoulders. And then Andy uses basically, I think he uses like a Meg, like a hybrid Meg. Charlie uses a Fathom. Matt uses Meg. So it's that. And then we're using RB80s for our bailout rebreathers, the RB80 side mount. Jared Zabolonsky and the guys at Halcyon were kind enough to run our crew through a course with Kirill Eskrov, and they kind of let us loose on that. So, and then several of us are using the Liberty as our side mount bailout because we're so far back and so deep now that if we had to bail out to an 80 at 365 feet back, it's just not sensible. So that's been one of the most challenging things that I've had to do in the last 2 years is to kind of renew the mind to be that far back and that deep and not see any stage bottles, so.
That's what it's coming to do these big dives is you
right. Yeah.
Open circuit doesn't work anymore. It's not practical.
Yeah, no, we still, I still have a long hose. We use a lot of the QC 6 fittings. So everybody's interchangeable. If there's, problems or team, we're still very, very team oriented. And at any given time, everybody knows what everybody's using. So if you have to share something and stuff, but our bailouts right now are press steel 121s. And so each one of those have, basically that heavy trimix. And then at about 1,300 feet in the cave or 1,400 feet, we've got a 240 mix all the way up to the back to the shallower depths. Now, when the photo teams are in Kirill Eskrov and the guys are shooting photo, they'll still bring stages in for their dives because they don't want to be hampered by bailout rebreathers too much. So,
what kind of PO2 are you running? So you're doing incredibly long exposure. What you got to start managing that oxygen exposure from the truck, I would guess.
Yeah, well, that's another thing. Like I said, it's tough to share because you don't get credited on really long dives. I'll usually run between a 0.8 and a 0.9. On the shorter dives, I just, after all these years, I'm certainly not a PhD or a physicist, but I will say you want your body to metabolize oxygen effectively when you want it to do that. And if you really burn yourself up in the dive to try to gain credit, but then you're trying to gain credit through increasing your oxygen later in the dive, but your lungs and your cardiovascular system are just literally fried, then what I experienced, this is just me personally, is I was experiencing really poor decompressions. I was getting a lot of subcutaneous type of DCS where it was just above the muscle and just below the fat, Santa Claus bends. And so what I ended up finding out was I really needed to wait and use that oxygen more wisely, where some people aren't like that. I've found on our team, some people are excellent oxygen metabolizers. They can metabolize high levels of oxygen for a considerable long time. Whereas guys like me, I've got to keep it a little low and then, apply it when it means the most. But then again, I started, saying I don't want to not be credited for it. So what I would do and I'm not suggesting this to anybody, once again, warning.
Yeah. You get a disclaimer, you're good.
Right. I'm not putting in the actual, heliox that, I'm diving because, I truly am seeing, it's not that I believe, it's something that I've seen in fruition, is that you're not really doing longer stops coming up, but you have to give the helium time to move out. So quick shots, like even when I get to 260 and my next ceiling may jump up to 230, I just don't go to 230. You got to give that helium will come out fast, but you can't make quick jumps. So you're not doing longer stops. So even though I'm running my PPO2s low during the beginning of the dive and I increase them at the end, guys on our team who run them high and still go high, they're kind of pulling ahead of me. It all seems to kind of wash out, but not in all dives, like I said. And a lot of guys who have been diving, WKPP and Wakulla for years, I mean, they're seeing these things too, but it's not something you can share with a lot of guys in the general diving, because next thing you know, they're at some other cave going, well, those guys do it there. Well, the reality is it works in these types of caves because of the extremely high amount of helium and the fact that we're moving very slow and staying very warm, so there's a lot of mitigating factors, which, I think it's just best to use the shear waters. I think it's great that they have, the out where you can set the, my brain went dead. How do you set the threshold on the computer to match kind of how you like to dive? What's it called? My brain went dead.
Your gradient factors or
gradient factors, right?
Right.
On our gradient factors are pretty much wide open at Wiki, but if I had to turn around and go anywhere else, I would immediately change that. It's just not applicable for what's going on there.
You probably hit on something here that's, you keep talking about temperature. And I was having some post dive hydration with a few folks a couple weeks ago down in Ginny. And one of the people that was having a few beers with us was talking about doing some longer exposure stuff. And she talked about how, she's diving her breather. She's, a third of the way through her deco, stabilized PO2. And she's like, I'm cold. She flicks on her heater vest and suddenly her PO2 just crashes. And she goes, I always thought this warm, cold stuff was just a bunch of bullshit, but to see that nitrogen helium come screaming out, like within a minute, you went from a 1.3 to a 1.0. It's
right.
Just like, well, there's something to this. This was holding this cold was holding this gas in me in solution. So it'd be really neat to have these conversations with Shearwaters or even with somebody like Eric Baker or whatever about, they almost need to have the temperature input on the computer be a sort of a controlling factor in the decompression algorithm.
Yeah, I mean, that's like DOT standards, though. I think you see so much in people's physical makeup, and everything else. I think most of the bins at Ginny, and Ginny gets a lot of bins. Of course, there's a lot of traffic, is most of the people come out of the lips and their computers got them clear to where? 30 feet.
Clear to the steps.
Yeah.
30 feet, And the problem is even though they're clear to 30, they just go, from 90
to 30.
And they get the 30 and they're already have DCS because, and I still think that's still, even with Shearwater's algorithms, I think that's inherently, a long time ago, the military said, medicate with oxygen or utilize pressure to allow the body to release, dissolved gases. And that's still a part of the algorithm, which is, what do we do? Do we medicate or do we use pressure along with, increasing oxygen? And most of the DCS I see at Ginny, people are already, they don't get bent at 30. They don't get bent at 20. They get bent because they went straight from 90 to their ceiling. And people just have to remember, slow ascents. When you go into decompression, slow ascents are part of it. I mean, you could slowly ascend from 90 to 30. And by the time you get to 30, you're clear. But I just see people all the time at Ginny just going straight to 30. And they're like, oh God. And it's like, that's the one thing that's taken me so many years to finally learn. Just because you got a ceiling doesn't mean you can go straight to it, And
I think you kind of hit on something that goes back to some basic technical training. When I did my very first, it was some like advanced nitrox deco procedures. They were really honest about run times. And it took a long time for me to kind of like basically throw those tables and not throw them in the garbage, but kind of ignore them. We got so focused on trying to stay on. I got to be at 40 feet at 52 minutes. We rushed to get there, and like you said, we're already bent before we get there because we're just so worried about hitting a run time. Where what's wrong with getting there a minute late and staying a minute or two extra? Like,
Yeah.
And I see it, and some mainstream training is really.
Well, I think out on
pushes
the
that.
lakes, you start doing the deep stuff out on the lakes. Your computer tells you got to stop at 120 for a minute or whatever. You take your time. By the time you get to 120, it's already telling you to you skip that, go to 100.
Yeah.
And you just keep going up nice and slow, and it never actually makes you stop. You just continue that slow ascent.
I guess the
Start
flip
getting shallow.
side of that though too is like we're leaving the nest and it says TTS 140 minutes. You're like shit, and then I screw around and let my PO2 drop and I screw that. By the time you get to your first stop, you're like, Jesus, one of these numbers going to start going the other way because
Right. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you
guys remember the old Cochrane computers?
All the cock rings.
I remember I used to go to the nest and I'd put in my 30% nitrox, and it would immediately, even though it told me before that I had to wait there, the moment I'd put the 30% nitrox on the Cochrane, it goes clear to 70. And I'm like, what? We have to get the crap out of ourselves on those things, man.
Oh, yeah, those have meant a lot of people.
Yeah, you're right. Sometimes when I'm way back on a deep dive, I won't pay attention and my PPO2 will drop back down and I'll see the TTS just go through the ceiling. I'm like, what the hell just happened? And then you immediately bring the PPO2 back up and, so when you're on those longer hangs, it's amazing how that fluctuates.
It's the deco eraser button. You hammer on that thing till it gets to a number you want to look at.
Well, Bob, you had some stuff queued up. I don't know if we dare trust the.
All right, so we got to let all our viewers know we have had some technical difficulties, but everything's working now. So I'm going to attempt this. Brett, we're going to play your video now.
Okay.
I'm going to leave you up on the screen. We'll still be able to hear you and talk with you.
All right.
And why don't you let us know what this is? Is it a video of WikiWatchy?
So this is the video from WikiWatchy from 2021. It's our last high def footage. It starts at what's called the White Stripes rooms. We're past Mount Doom. We're about 300, and I think we've come back up to 300. And these are the last several rooms at Wiki. And it's a long story short. We were on a previous video dive where we thought everything was kind of feeding out. With all the video lights, I look over and we see this massive passage. So this starts at the White Stripes at WikiWatchy. We're about 7,800 feet back at about 300 feet deep. And
all right, well, we're going to try and make it work right now. So
good luck.
Bender goes first.
Here we go. You can see why we call it the White Stripes room. In this video, I'm in front. This is Matt Benzant following in behind me, and Dr. Andrew Pitkin shooting the video. The really cool thing about Wiki is a lot of these formations you see on the floor are actually from where saltwater during ocean rise, during one of the last ice ages, whether or not it was a small one or a big one, saltwater would come in and microbials would grow, and then the next thing you know, the fresh water would return and then they would mineralize. So as I was saying before, we're carrying two press steel 121s in side mount configuration. Each one of these tanks has anywhere from 890, some variation of 790, 887, something like that. So this is the serious room. Andy's almost 150 feet away. So this is literally half of the room in the serious room, and that's Matt and I coming around. These were lights that were provided by Big Blue. Prior to that, we were actually having to design our own lights. So now we're heading to the northeast side of the Sirius room. A lot of these layers literally represent what used to be the ocean floor. These white, really opaque layers are really chalky. When we first started exploring Weeki Wachee, we called it White Death. Yes, we have backup scooters. Matt's carrying a backup scooter there between his legs. I don't have it. Matt's got it. You look real good. Sometimes it's hard to see the line in some of these areas. And this is literally kind of a smallish area. So we're heading into a room called the funnel room. This is a room that Andy and Matt found while I was away doing some work. And so there are restrictions in Weeki Wachee. But you'd be surprised. You go through some of these funnel restrictions, and what's on the other side is just amazing. So we're about to enter into the funnel room, which is just a tremendous room with really high walls. The walls are almost 70 to 80 feet high. We never found a way out of the funnel room, but this was actually my first time in the funnel room as well. And so what you're seeing here is just the right-hand side. We don't really have enough light to kind of bring the ceiling into view. So right now we're about 8,000 feet out. So on my rig, I'm carrying a LP50, the yellow tank. One is oxygen for my metabolic supply for the rebreather. And it basically just has a OPV on it, and it supplies oxygen for my rebreather. And the other one is for dry suit, because obviously we use a lot of gas. So now we've come around and we're on the opposite wall. We're heading back out. It's just a beautiful room. Matt jumped in front because, once again, I hadn't even seen this room prior to the video. When you're shooting this type of video, it's really important to try to keep everybody in frames. As you can see, I'm illuminating Matt's back fins and he's illuminating the front. And we call it basically you want to make sure that the cells, the outer cell of the video light is just covering up the other one. Oh. So now we're heading out. Actually, I think Andy has the backup, but believe me, we do have a backup scooter. Definitely. I know we dropped one at the Mega Y, but Andrew also has one. So now we're exiting the funnel room. It's really amazing that something like that can be on the other side of a little hole like that. Don't see that very often. Let's see. And we're coming back out. Now we're heading over to the connection passage to the last super room in Weeki Wachee. It's called the Unknown. And so we're going to cross under here, go a couple of 100 feet in a relatively nice passage, but certainly not real big. These videos and most of our habitats can actually be found if you go to Andy Pitkin, ANDYPITKIN, like the Pitkin heater. And go to Andy Pitkin Vimeo, and we usually keep the catalog of our videos there. Matt and I are using Valkyries with 1700 amp hour packs. We're using the Deep Valkyries. And Andrew Pitkin is using the Genesis. So here we are about to make our hard left up into the unknown. This was my last dive I did at the beginning of November. The unknown is a massive room. It's just this big sprawling football-sized field, and you come up and up and up. And so now we're kind of on an angle heading up into the unknown. So in 2020, we had the room had been found, and we've been visiting it several times, and the majority of the flow at Weeki Wachee comes out. The room comes up and up and up and up and levels off at a place called the Saddle, and then it continues on. So here we are, we're going to be coming up to the Saddle soon. But all this breakdown in the floor, literally the flow is coming out of it. And we spent the last 2 years trying to find a way to get around this massive breakdown in this room. So this is called the Saddle. And then you kind of go over the Saddle and it just continues to go up. Now we've cleared the Saddle, and we're entering into the second half of the unknown. At this point, there's a small alcove down to our right side of the Saddle, and on the left side, it goes down to a thing called Lost Hope. So now we're going to head to the far side of the unknown, where it goes up to the attic. So in the beginning of last month, myself and a guy named Gary navigated our way to the left and back under the breakdown, and we're back in passage. It's more like Mexico style passage, and on our last dive we ended up finding ourselves in a single file tunnel with about 1.5 knots of current, and it was things got really crazy. We were about 365 feet deep, and the moment you let off the trigger, you were either blown into the ceiling or blown down into the silt, which is certainly not what you see here, but so the passage that we're in now is actually underneath this massive breakdown. We're trying to navigate our way out of it. So, and that dive was 15 hours long. So now we're kind of reaching the far side. This is still the same room, by the way. This is the far side of the unknown. And we're going to come back around here. We don't got to watch the video for the full exit, so we can talk some more, but I just wanted you guys to see what we're seeing here at the end of Weeki Wachee. So this is basically the passage that goes down to Lost Hope and goes back under. And we're heading out. So Bob and Greg, if you guys want to cut the video. Anyways, I hope
Oh, God damn it. All right, guys. Brett will log back in. Give him a moment. There's an incredible video here. It looks like he's back.
Is that not spectacular?
Great. It all worked great. And
oh, now there it is.
there it is. I don't even want to click on anything because I don't want to lose you again.
Sure.
I don't even know what to say. That's incredible cave.
Yeah.
That is absolutely beautiful cave.
I've been exploring there since 2007. And in the last 2 years, I keep telling everybody I'm going to hang it up, and then all of a sudden it just gives us something more. And I'm like, well, maybe next year. So we'll see.
What we did the sort of the pre-show when we were dealing with all the technical difficulties. You talked a little bit about shooting video in between 300 and 400 feet. And, we always give our buddy Terry and before that Jeff Post credit for, bringing back the first high definition or digital 8 video of the Ganilda with a camera that they went and bought at the mall and then took it like 150 feet deeper than it was rated to go. Right. How do you do this? Like this this is phenomenal video. You just call up Gates and say, send us a housing. Let's go shoot video. Or how's this work?
If you do go to Andy Pitkin Vimeo, you'll actually see, like I said, it's real progressive, but I gotta give credit to Andrew Pitkin. We 3 years ago, we shot with a subsidiary of Nat Geo called Black Dot, and they used a 360-degree. It was a Hero 7, had 4 heroes in it, and we were so excited to give that footage to the general public. But there was another feature that was just about to come out, called Those Amazing Caves. It was a Mosey Max feature. And it's just my opinion, but what I think ended up happening is Nat Geo saw the footage that we did with that 360-degree camera here, and they didn't want to ruin the premiere of their Mosey Max feature, so they bought it, and they never released it. So that being said, I think a lot of what Dr. Pitkin has purchased, the cameras and the housings, is just because he was so angry. He was like, we worked really hard to do that. And like I said, our number one goal is we want people in Florida, the aquifer is a water table. I mean, there's just not this vast room, but once again, when people see this and realize that when you drive over US 19 at Weeki Wachee, that's what you're driving overneath. You're literally driving over that, and I just want, people to see it. It's sad to say, but, the nitrate levels and stuff in our state are just out of control. I always tell everybody there's only 120 miles of land that don't make us an island. And the problem is now so many of our springs are turning green. They're still clear. And my kids see it and they're like, wow, that's pretty, but when I was younger, I mean, it was like gin clear, and so as the natural resources that I've been surrounded my entire life are in a constant state of degradation, I just feel, let's capture this so that 20 years from now, people can go, wow, look what it used to look like. Look what we used to have. Because I don't think there's any way to turn it around. I mean, people are going to continue to move here. And now Florida does deep well injection. They fluoridate and clean all of our sewage, and they pump it into the deep aquifer because they're convinced it won't make its way to the shallow aquifer, which is what that is. So, it's sad to say, but I think the state of our springs in Florida is going to be degrading, and as long as people continue to move here and we treat the resource the way we do this, you're just going to see a constant degradation of these types of things. So we want to document it.
Brett, we got a question from ZJ.
Sure.
He wants to know, how far have you found trash or other evidence of humans back in this cave?
Well, back in this cave, not very far because it goes deep relatively fast. There have been a lot of caves that we've dove that has sinkholes and siphon caves where I've found. I mean, I was in Sulphur Springs doing survey work in Tampa, Florida. In 3,800 feet back, a McDonald's straw came floating by, and then 2 minutes later, a feminine product also came floating by.
Oh, I got a quick short story about that. We were down there. I don't know. I was in Florida. We went and did a couple dives, and then my buddy decided he wanted to go do some cave in a river somewhere. We got in a canoe. We paddled up this canoe in the afternoon. We threw our side mount gear on. It was this horrible cave. We couldn't see anything. It was tiny and small and short, but we went and dove it. And all the way at the back of the cave, we found a thong. So that came back out with us and got hung on a rear view mirror of another buddy's truck who didn't want to go with us.
Yeah.
I don't remember where it was, but yeah, it was an interesting trip.
Check Exley. I've been fortunate enough to dive a few systems where a lot of people, he used to have this fetish of carrying the single cinder blocks, not a double cinder block. He would literally hold the single cinder block and swim thousands. I mean, I think in Falmouth or one of the caves up north where he was, 8,000 feet back, and all of a sudden there's just this cinder block laying on the floor, and you're looking up, and someone go, "Oh yeah, Sheck swam that back there," I'm like,
just because.
Why? Because he could, I guess. I don't know.
Why not?
Right.
Good enough reason for me.
Right.
So, Bender, do you think it's time we have our shot?
I think it's time, Bob.
I think it's time, and then we got some questions. All right. Well, let me grab my Lickermans.
Oh God, we don't need this, Bob.
What?
Oh goodness.
Goodness is right.
Was it the episode we had Becky on where you had to promise you would wear pants for the show?
Oh God, yeah, but I didn't wear a shirt for that. And then when I was diving with Becky over the summer, there's photos of me in no pants and her trying to climb a ladder, and it's a whole thing. I don't know if she'll talk to me anymore. I don't know, Becky. You're watching tonight? Chime in.
Oh, she's probably in Antarctica or something. So
yeah,
we are drinking Lickerman's Old Dirty Canadian whiskey, and Brett's drinking some Captain. They are the unofficial sponsor of this show. They won't return our calls, but we're working on it. So, cheers, guys! Everybody else, cheers! There we go.
You know when you're mixing up Aqua Seal and that Kotal 240, you get that just burning sensation in the back of your throat. That's
it. Lickerman's.
That's the exact same.
All right. So before we keep going on the show, real briefly, before I forget, Bender, I'm going to see you in a few weeks, and we'll talk about that in a little bit in the show. I'm out of Lickerman's. I only got a little bit left.
Bobby, so I got it sitting here right here, a fresh one with the lid on it for you.
Okay.
We're going to have to talk about how I afforded to pay for this. It had to do with our gear reviews. So we'll get to that. But, you want a good review on the Talking Tech gear reviews, you know the secret. So anyways, before we get to that, Brett's never seen the show. That's why he agreed to come on. That seems to be a standard thing.
Guys, Brett's probably never going to speak to us again. But he did put on a good presentation here for us. So.
Yeah. So we do every show, we do Talking Tech 20 questions. It's kind of evolved a little bit. And it's a speed round. The rules are you gotta answer every single question. So if you're ready, we're ready. Are you ready, Brett?
I'm ready.
All right. Gas or diesel?
Gas.
Wet or dry?
Dry.
Coffee or tea?
Coffee.
GUE or TDI?
GUE.
Beer or wine?
Beer.
Top or bottom?
Top.
Open circuit or closed?
Closed.
Computer or tables?
Computer.
Power or sail?
Sail.
Better photographer,
Jill or Beck?
Oh, you got to answer it.
I'm going to see Jill next week. Sorry, Jill.
She doesn't watch the show.
Oh, okay, Becky.
Yeah, Becky watches the show.
Becky. Definitely. Right.
Rust or wood?
Rust.
Back mount or side mount?
Back mount.
Good
Better
answer.
captain. Good answer. Better captain. Captain Kirk or Captain Picard?
Captain Kirk.
Oh, for fuck's sake.
Did
Bender,
you know,
shut up.
none of our guests know this, and Brett probably doesn't either. Do you know that Captain Kirk's a Canadian?
I did not.
Well, there you
Yeah,
go.
he
You learn
likes to
something.
remind everybody every fucking show.
Salt or fresh?
Salt.
Rex or caves?
Caves.
Johnny Cash or Elton John?
Oh. Johnny Cash.
Ginger or Marianne?
Marianne.
Deep Air or Trimix?
Trimix.
Better movie, The Deep or The Abyss?
Oh, The Abyss, definitely.
And we're kind of playing. We're still working on this one. Blue Origin or Virgin Galactic?
Blue Origin.
And that, folks, is Talking Tech 20 Questions. See, I told you it's like a window into your soul.
I guess.
And you got to break a couple hearts in the process, too.
There you go. There you go. Becky will still talk to you, but we'll forward this to Jill. So
Jill's calling me right now.
All
She
right.
said she didn't watch the show.
Oh shit! I didn't
She
think
knows
she watched
better.
the show.
He knows better. So
Josh wants to know, how does he volunteer and help with the karst underwater research?
So our DEP permit is a multi-site permit. So we can only bring people on, sign everybody up for 1 year, and then after that. So the big thing right now is we have 50 people on our roster. Is at the end of every year, based on the availability of diving all the different sites, we have to go through and kind of pick people who have really made a point to try to involve themselves in any capacity. And it's not about, just setting us up for exploration. I'm glad you guys asked this question, because I'll segue into something else. Finding, I'm sure you guys feel this way too, finding like-minded people, really, and what that means, it's difficult. I mean, there's a lot of people that want to dive a new cave, there's a lot of people that just want to go dive a new wreck, but trying to find people who are really passionate about cave diving and documenting things is more difficult than finding people that just want to dive stuff. And so, like right now, we don't really have an active project working. We have another project called Line Eater that, believe it or not, is the third longest underwater cave in the world. A few years ago, well, more than a few years ago, about 6 years ago, Wakulla is no longer the longest continuous underwater cave. It's actually Falmouth Spring. John Bernot and Charlie Roberson actually pushed that further than Wakulla as far as linear distances are concerned. That being said, Line Eater is another big one we're involved with. But when we're not doing it, we have a lot of places for our team to go and dive that aren't all clear. They're not all beautiful, but we really try to find people who have a genuine interest in seeing new places. And a lot of these places need to be surveyed. They need to be documented. And so at the end of the year, we sit down and we look at this list and we say, who was able to help, who went out and really tried to start something on their own, which is what I'm really interested in. I want, inevitably, when I'm not a part of karst underwater research anymore, I want to make sure that there's good stewards in our organization that are still here. There may not be a Wikiwachi, at least continuing, or a Line Eater or one of these other systems that we dive, but I want to find a lot of like-minded, spirited people that are out there and don't have to dive a cave because it's blue or clear. For me, as long as I can see part of the wall and 5 feet in front of me, I love those caves as much as I love gigantic blue caves. And you probably the same thing with wrecks. I mean, some of your favorite wrecks are probably the ones that are just I love wreck diving, but I like wrecks of real history. Whenever people
Well, you got to come up to the lakes.
Yeah. I mean, I like real historical wrecks. I don't really like going to wrecks that have been sunk, even though they're cool and they're neat. But
I'm with
so
you.
that's the question.
I'm with you on that.
yeah.
So the best way to do it is ask yourself this question. I mean, if you feel like you would be available to be involved, not in just helping with bigger dives, but to be involved with all the different other sites and locations that we have, that's kind of the mechanism we use to choose people now. Is we're trying to find people who can make themselves available to start their own thing or to be involved in what we're doing on other projects. So, but it's easy. All you got to do is just reach out to us and email us, send us your information. But once again, if you don't think that you're going to be available at least half of the year to do stuff, then it may not be something we could do. So sorry.
So Josh, there you go. 6 months you got to give them, or go fuck yourself. So that's pretty much it. But now reach out if you're into it and you can help out, then absolutely reach out.
Absolutely. Yes.
I think this is one of the best shows we've done, Bob. You had the IT stuff kind of worked. You showed some video and like that. This is
we had shit working. I think we hit our hour. So Brett, you need to stay on. Even if you drop off, come back on. We do a little after party here.
He's probably had enough of us, but
But I guess before we do that, do we got any other questions from the guys viewing? Well, we got one of the best. Great show. Excellent. I mean, people are happy with our show, so that's
Yeah.
good.
Yeah.
So if we got any other questions, we'll take those. If not, you know what? We forgot something there, Bender.
Well, so I wanted to, before we get into Friday.
Today is Friday.
I know, but before we get to that, I want to talk about a couple things. So gear reviews. I don't know if you guys have seen. We started putting together some poorly edited gear review videos. Couple rules on that is they have to be gear that we've purchased with our own money. I really am getting tired of in this industry someone getting sent some free stuff for a free, plug. Hey, look at my new fancy Chinese light, how great it is. Thanks for sending me free stuff. Everybody should buy one. And even some of the people that are sponsored by brands, promoting stuff that really isn't, in my opinion, and a lot of divers' opinion, isn't good stuff. And we got to ask ourselves, if you had to spend your own hard-earned money on it, would you buy it? So with that said, we started doing the gear reviews. We did get one piece of equipment donated. They didn't get the message. Bobby can kind of talk a little bit about that. But yeah, so follow the Facebook or the Facebook page, the YouTube page for the gear reviews. We're going to try to have one out every couple weeks. Yeah, and then it's Friday. So
we are going to start doing some gear reviews. I think that'll be good. I think we're going to put them up on our YouTube page. So go follow the fucking YouTube page. I just started the goddamn thing. You guys got to start following. I got like 6 people on it. Like, we got to make this fucking into something if you want to keep watching us idiots on the show. So we got to make that happen. And I think, Bender, we're going to try and fit in a couple more shows before February, right? We're going to hit it pretty hard and heavy.
At least one. I've got a big name that I'm just working on time zones and stuff with. I think it'll be really cool. And then we're going to try to do a live show the Friday night down in Florida with Larry.
Here's the thing is we haven't actually announced that we're going to Florida.
We announced it last year.
No, we didn't. We told there's an invite-only trip.
Oh, yeah.
We didn't tell anybody. So now, since it's only a few weeks away, guys, if you want to come hang out with us, just come meet us in Florida. We'll be down there, the 6th through the 11th, I think.
I think the Friday the 4th. Let me look at my calendar.
I don't fucking know. We'll be down there around that week. So just come down there, hang out with us, drink some beer, do some cave diving.
We will be arriving about noon on Saturday, February 4th, and departing about the same time on February 11th. So it's Talking Tech, getting trashed and trashing caves, and it's going to be messy. So yeah.
Yep. So guys, if you're coming, you don't even have to let us know. We don't really care. Just show up, have a few fucking beers. You better bring me something good. I like beer. I like rum. I like whiskey. So you can bring any of that, and you'll be welcome to come hang out with us. If not, you can fuck right off. And that should be a good trip. And go follow our YouTube channel so you can listen to all our gear reviews. We're going to give you some good ones coming up. And I think on that, we get to it's Friday, Bender. Who do you got? Who do you think can fuck off on Friday? Brett doesn't know anything about this portion.
Yeah, he doesn't watch the show. So
Brett, you got to think of somebody who needs to be told to fuck off.
By Friday of every week, you've got, but usually by Monday afternoon, Bob's got somebody on his list.
Fucking Bender's got a whole list starting as of Saturday morning.
Yeah. Bob, I'm going to let you go first. I got to think about this. There's
before we tell people to fuck off, just everybody, I don't know, on Facebook, you can go to Karst Underwater Research. Most of our stuff is there. And like I said, any of the videos you'd ever want to see, the habitats and all that other stuff, just go to Andy Pitkin, Pitkin, Vimeo. You can watch that there. I can't think of anybody I want to tell to fuck off. Hold on a second.
We'll give
Cheryl, are you sleeping yet? My wife's still awake, so that's mine right there. So.
Don't tell her.
Oh, fuck. All right, I got to say, I was watching the fucking news just right before we went on. Jesus Christ, can we pick a fucking speaker at a fucking house? Fuck off, you fucking politicians. I'm done with it. fuck off. We're done. Bender, who do you got?
Well, I think I'm going to go with that too, right? Because it seems like,
You're not even an American. As bad as you
I'm not
want to
going
be.
I'm going to talk with politicians. So, everybody's tightening their belt. Things are getting tough out there for everybody. Working schmoes, man. It's this next year. We know it's going to be tough. And if you're lining up at the trough, civil servant or a politician, you're giving yourself a raise on the back of the hard worker. I don't care what side of the aisle you sit, what color ribbons you pin to yourself, whatever. You need to fuck off. That's mine for today.
Mine's non-political. It doesn't mean Democrat, Republican, or whatever, but I think all people there should be limited terms for Congress people.
Well, I thought you were saying all people should fuck off.
Well, no, but I think people who don't think there should be limited terms for people in Congress should fuck off. So
You're not wrong.
All right. Well, hey, good show. Hopefully, if Brett doesn't block us all on Facebook after this, hopefully we can see him down in Florida. And appreciate you coming on, sharing
Absolutely.
some. Probably, I'm going to say this is amongst the best cave footage I've ever seen in my life. I'm still blown away.
I'd love to see you guys in February, but I'm actually doing a project in Tallahassee that I'll be able to talk about next year, but it's pretty exciting. But I've had to sign stupid things, so I can't talk about it. But next year I will be able to.
He's got the non-disclosure agreement.
I mean, we can reach out if you're around and we can meet up with you for a beer or something. That'd be cool.
Yeah. I'll be, man. If I'm coming back from Tallahassee, I will. So, but it actually we're assisting someone. I'll say one clue. It has to do with outer space, so that's exciting.
Oh fuck!
So
they're hanging out with Captain Kirk. I fucking call him.
Pretty close to it.
Yeah.
But I have to see Jill Heinrich, so I hope she doesn't hear about what I said. So.
Oh fuck!
I've already texted
that. Becky's better. We all know that. But I gotta say, Becky might be better, but El Jefe is the best. We're just gonna leave it at that. Jeff Lindsay, best there is. We all know that. So, okay, I guess we're gonna sign off now. Brett, you can go ahead and stay on here for a second.
Okay.
If you get kicked off, just come back on because I
Okay.
don't know what the fuck's wrong with this. But so to everybody else, we'll be back in a week or two with another show. We got a lot of cool stuff coming. This should be a fun, exciting year. So I'm gonna log off now, and everybody can fuck right off.